say. Now, that's another buzzword which we'll try to crack a little later. But coming back to the compliance and linking this bit, I don't know how many of you might know, India was the first, amongst the first countries to adopt at a governmental level COVID. And that's at the CAG level.
But I hope it's not the case of Panchal saying, you tell me to cut my feet to fit your shoes.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I'm coming to that. In fact, the CAG's office was one of the first institutions globally to formally adopt COVID 4.1 for, now coming, that's where I'm coming to cutting lyrics. They said, we'll take this for our audit process. And they kind of made it an open framework. They said, hey guys, across India, wherever your government auditors are, use this and then put your thinking to bring in something that will let us understand as an audit organization this piece called IT audit. So that's how they made it. And then it went on into RBI formally recognizing the role of CISAs being permanently required as a required position in many places. Then RBI, if you see the Gopal Krishna Working Committee recommendation, the working group recommendations which are in 2011, the 200-page document, unless you have the piece to read it, you'll find it as a CISA review manual itself. But then it mentions that COVID is one of the desirable IT governance frameworks you need to have. Now, coming back, what's happening with the regulatory side and how does really things help? One of the key things that brought back a lot of focus globally on COVID, the milestone or the landmark, if you really see, was the Obamacare program. The Obamacare program adopted a framework because they said, they discussed all the framework. Oh, we got ISO 27001, we got CMMI, we got this, we got that. There are so many security frameworks around the world. But I'm always reminded of my friend who about 6 years back, and he heads one of the largest IT organizations in India. And he said, Vittal, more of a friendly talk, he said, see, I got ISO 27001, I got SAS 70s, I got CMM, I got all customer audits who comes and audit me round the year, but I don't get the confidence. I get through every time. I have not failed in a single certification program so far in my life. So he says, that scares me. Because I know the truth in this organization, we are not that great in terms of security. So can you tell me, is there a way to really, without going in for that certification race, to tell me where am I actually? And that's where COVID came in. So they found that COVID is, it was never intended to be a certification program. You don't get certified on COVID. Of course, there is now a COVID compliant program which has been introduced, but there is nothing called a certification. So he said, if you take this as a self-assessment exercise and on the dimensions of what you want to know, because if you take the various processes of COVID, it covers everything from regulation, compliance, innovation, IT process management, quality, assurance, audit, everything is covered there. So it says, choose, the fundamental way to start with COVID is, what's your pain point or your need? Let's define that first. And then let's see if you can adopt any of this to really find out, okay, what's the gaps like against this particular thing called COVID? And if you do that, work on it and improve it and delivers, that's there. So it has worked for organizations. So that is where it delivers directly into regulatory compliance. Actually, as Ms. Chaudhary was rightly saying, the first thing you go and tell the board and the auditor saying, hey, I got ISO 27001, I got blah, blah, blah. Okay, tick, 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 go, you can go, your job done. Then you come back to the seat, say, today morning we had a ransomware attack. Do I disclose it to the audit committee or not? They are going to sign the balance sheet.
By the way, I have a different view. I think the CIOs should start signing, They should also go to jail.
Don't worry about that. It's already there as part of the Information Technology Act. Section 85 very clearly says, every person in charge of the conduct of business at any time in the organization when the fraud, whenever the violation took place, is responsible for 3 years imprisonment, crores of rupees of fine, blah, blah, blah. So don't worry about it.
Okay. Thank you.
So saddest pleasures are taken care of there.
So, but I think this is a very interesting thing you are saying, that I follow ISACA, I follow CMM, I follow Falana, Dhikna, whatever. And then you are telling me you follow one more thing called COVID. How is it going to help me? And firstly, more work. And you have to pay money to people like you, all of you. I mean, not you, sir. You will pay money. You will pay money to all of them. And will that prevent fraud? How will it help me in improving my security and control environment?
Great. I always take an analogy for this, so permit me just 2 minutes. First, I would rather borrow a cue from the very theme of this particular panel, wearing the security glasses. I was just thinking over, as a board, they generally are like a reading class, whenever security comes, they'll put on the glasses and say, acha, what's happening on security, acha, chalo. As a consultant, we are always wearing glasses, we are out of business, so it's a permanent glasses, okay? But when it comes to an incident, they start wearing microscopic glasses and say, who's responsible, come on. What did you do? But when they go for the budget, they have binocularic glasses. They say, yeah. That there's one more. There is one more. The regulator wears sunglasses. Huh? So, I mean, just thinking over it and coming back to this, it's like in our lives, we go, I'm sure all of us get these master health checkups done, right? Yeah. Now tell me, does it ensure you that you're absolutely healthy? It could have been error in the process. It could have been error with the doctor.
Or it could have been fixed.
It could have been fixed, yes. Yeah, generally it's fixed because they say, this program, the premium one, health checkup costs you 10,000 bucks. You paid it, okay, you get done. You say, doctor, I hope there's nothing wrong with me. Don't worry, we would think that so. And they say, okay, this time leave him, next time we'll catch him. Right? Anyway, but the point apart is, they go, then when you're fed up of everything and you say that nothing is working, I still have that headache, that migraine is not going away, then what do? They say, why don't you try yoga and walking in the morning? You said, these things never worked in life here, come on. So you go back and go to a yoga therapist and say, Acha, what do you want me to do? They say, breathe. I say, I've been doing that for ages. No, breathe properly. Actually, when you just start breathing properly, when they say, okay, breathe in, breathe out, you find there's a difference. So COVID is like that.
Oh. Yeah, very, very, very interesting. So what you are telling me and what the nation wants to know, there is I need to do nothing more.
You just need to be conscious about what you're doing. I would rather say you just need to be conscious about what you need to do and what you're doing. That's it.
Sir, would this be acceptable to you? I mean, tomorrow they'll put you in a jail or something. I don't want you to go to jail.
I also completely agree with his, I think, observations. Every time I sign those certifications, my hands shiver. Because I don't know what is really the underlying. I'm just believing on some initials and some checklist which has been done. So I think it should not remain a more kind of a checklist exercise or a tick box exercise which needs to be completed. And whether we are going behind the spirit of what is intended and what is it in the interest of the business. So if that thing is not getting followed, then I think the same thing will happen, like we go for our checkups, but we don't find out what is actually wrong. And we keep on dealing with some trivial symptoms, but the problem will still remain. I think that is what we keep doing in business, is that, okay, we also have all kinds of intruder detection systems, data leakage protection, all kinds of anti-spam, anti-malware, all kinds of things are there. But ultimately, what is it? Are we incident-free? No. No organization, in spite of implementing best of the tools and every technology in the world, they cannot be incident-free. I think, and that has been quite evident in terms of what our attacks are happening or what you read in the newspapers. And as the scope of business keeps on increasing, I remember my days when we were early in terms of implementation in Oriental Insurance for our computerization. There were standalone PC80s who were not communicating with anything. The data was getting stored on hard disk. At the most, it was connected to a printer. And then we used to do things. Then peer-to-peer networking and all kinds of enhancements kept happening. And as those enhancements started happening, I think the vulnerability or the exposure to this kind of misuse also increased. So I think the way businesses are growing, the way things are happening in the outside world. It is not only about these certifications. Okay, these certifications will give you, I would say, some benchmark in terms of relying on certain things. But then ultimately, as management or as a person who is responsible, you need to take certain calls and uh, not completely relying on these certifications. You need to have that instinct or in terms of what you need to do as far as your business is concerned. Because I have spent, or legal department works under me. They have spent months, couple of months in terms of framing so elaborate and good legal agreements. But ultimately, when that agreement has to stand the test of law, we have seen that falling apart. So just signing NDAs, just signing legal agreements, just holding somebody responsible is going to be on paper. Ultimately, when it hits you, okay. As a principal who has outsourced certain functions, as a person who has shared certain data, as a person who is actually privy to some information, I am going to be responsible. I have to face the consequences. Whether I recover uh, 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 those kind of financial effects from somebody else or whether I am really indemnified, that's all, I would say, post-mortem which is going to happen. But my business is going to take a beating. And I think apart from the basic security and the incident threats, what board is today more concerned about is the reputation risk. Because a group, particularly when is failing these kind of incidents, it shows that even the biggest groups could be actually vulnerable in terms of these attacks. And what kind of preparation or what, because I think particularly when we are dealing with the financial services industry, people have some kind of inherent trust in terms of whatever financial information they share with us, their PAN numbers, their dates of birth, their personal information, their health information. And then what happens is that if that trust is shaken, then we are going to take a beating in the market. So I think apart from the IT risk, the reputation risk is also very, very much overwhelming as far as the board and the top management is concerned.
Yes, yes. So, I'm going to ask you to comment on that. But tell me, as a consultant, how do you create scare in the companies to give you some jobs,
We go with different glasses. I'll just extend the point that Mr. Chaudhary said. And very clearly, I think, let me go back one step further. Sorry. Yesterday we had a discussion on Aadhaar. And super impressed with the fact that the level of confidence and it's pretty much in a lot of way a benchmark for us as a country, and it's a benchmark for world over. And I asked the gentleman, you touched upon the fact that this is an unhackable thing, right? He said, no, 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 I didn't mean that. What I mean was,
so far.
So far. It is very, very strong layer. I mean, they build in layers. He touched upon a few things. It's definitely strong. But it's not that it is unhackable. We are making sure that we are learning each and every day. So when you talk about, do I have an assurance? Yeah, I mean, there are multiple things as a CIO and a person can do. But I think the most important point in this entire piece is, to me as a consultant, to me as someone who sees organizations in their own decision-making process, to me the most important thing is, what's the tone at the top? When people who are really reading those glasses, do they take those glasses once in a while, or do they really understand what does that mean?
Or they do a surgery and change the number.
They would eventually need to do that.
Yeah.
Right. But no matter how much of business cases the rest of the organization, the CIO, the CFO, everyone is going to make and say, hey, we are in this market, we have these set of vulnerabilities, we need to do something about it. Unless the person and pretty much the board and the audit committee really gears up to really looking at things in a particular way and putting money on the spot and saying, yes, it makes sense for us to really strengthen ourselves, you will not be able to take advantage of whatever investment that you would end up doing, because end of the day, your investment only precedes the next question that the board is going to ask, and something else comes in and that takes priority. If you really even get down to some stats at this point of time, through some of those surveys that we've come across, 72% of the 72% of the organizations feel that their employees are not capable of putting up a very sophisticated cyber attack. My panelist here, and I'm sure some of you all would also understand that's no more true, right? The entire millennial population that we are talking about, the entire set of tools which are very freely available on the internet and so on and so forth. There is enough available to really ding an organization or come closer to really hack into the data, take the data out and so on and so forth. So when it comes to really looking at it from a point of view of do I have an assurance, it's difficult, but it's an evolving process. Organization needs to look at it concerted way, tone at the top, at the operational tactical layer, at the strategic layer, people need to align to the fact that these are an ongoing procedures, not a one-time thing. I take a pill, I get going, and then I don't have to bother about it. It's an ongoing process.
No, I think it's a very interesting point. And let me come back to you, Vittal. This new Companies Act, you know, there is onerous responsibility on the board and the KMPs, and you had something not similar, maybe less severe in the Sabins, whatever. How do you see this? You know, I mean, has this triggered off a need to look at security, or it's you know, take a CIO's job?
No, I think it's a very good question, I must say. Has it, let me answer the first. I mean, has it triggered off the need? I would think yes. Because for the first time, there's more professional members on the board, on the audit committees, independent directors who are coming in and challenging the existing board members to say, hey guys, what have you done about all this? So there is somebody now at a peer level trying to kind of put that consciousness. It is like, you know, I look at this bottle daily, but you go home and ask me, you know, that bottle lying on the table, is which bottle? Then somebody says, this bottle, oh, it's been lying there for some time. So the risk has been there always, but I never had maybe the mindset to look at it as a risk. I mean, I would always think anything that I don't understand, I give it to my deputies to take care of. And one of them is cyber risk, or whatever name you call it, because every time I try to get the CIO in for a dialogue, he speaks a language which makes no sense to me as a business guy. He is talking rubbish. So I simply end the conversation with, how much do you want? So you give him the budget, and generally it's 1/10 of what he asks. He says, goes back happily grumbling. Chalo. So
You'll
that
only
is
get an
changing.
underwear with this.
That is changing now, because for the first time we are bringing the true SOX culture. But I mean, the IFC is different from the ICFR, because now we are including all the operational systems on earth. I would always ask this, very simple. Today's, I mean, if you look at the audit community, that's a challenge to them as well. Can they audit the Flipkarts of today using the traditional audit stuff? No way. So, and today the Flipkart is just, you know, one exaggeration of a model which is already coming into most organizations. Name an organization today which doesn't have a mobile app. So we are kind of growing into a risk from a business perspective on forced to understand the technology components. For example, if I say, oh, you go and tell the board, you know, your guys are, your mobile is using so many APIs back into this, and it is, I mean, where is your security perimeter? And then they say, what the hell are you talking about? He says, very simple, here's all your data which I took out of your server from my mobile. Then this get the message. So I think it is now, the New Companies Act certainly has brought in a kind of forum and a platform and an environment wherein by bringing in different facets, like the women director that you were saying, I mean, that's fabulous. I mean, they go, I mean, as you were saying, we men don't have the patience for detail, but they go into the report and say, I read about this somewhere, and you better tell me what this is all about.
Yeah, it's like looking at your credit card statement. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And when a woman asks, she demands answers. You better give it to them.
Yeah.
So, which means it's a good thing happening. For the first time, you start thinking, oh, this lady is right. So, I think all these new requirements are, I think, certainly bringing in that first the mindset and the environment to really look at this a little more seriously and try to understand it. Not that the board earlier was not aware about, they are aware, they have been worried about all this, they are pretty paranoid about this. But the problem always has been, what questions do I ask to this guy? If he was a finance guy, I ask him a very straight question, kitna paisa milega? But here, I don't know what to ask him. So I think that's changing now. And when you start breaking up that, especially from my financial reports perspective, and go down to saying, this particular SAP system of yours or whatever was sitting there, yours, and this is what is not properly configured, therefore these are not unreliable, is where it comes. I think we are running out of time. So this is where I think it certainly has, that's the thing. And what it is also doing is, it is bringing in lot of emphasis on integrated controls, integrated audits. I think that's a good thing which is happening, I would think.
Yeah, so one last, Vittal, I understand all that, but ये तो पुराना economy आप बात किया, आप थोड़ा बोला, you know, all this Flipkarts and all that. But there is this whole new animal, Google autonomous car and IoT, and I mean, and there is a convergence happening, and you know, a dog will become a cat and whatever. So, are there any standards, frameworks? The Ministry of, I was told that the Ministry of Energy is looking at IoT in a different way than the Ministry of Irrigation. And then the police and the home is looking differently. You know, and I mean, we'll have a chaos if there is no common framework. Like, you know, Dr. Rekhajan mentioned that we'll be reinventing and trying to have interportability. Is there any thinking you are aware of in this area?
That's, in fact,
And
that,
not only
that was a
that-
hornet's nest she really stirred up. I'm glad she did that. And I mean, that's where the question really, I mean, that's a very important thing. I think as professionals, where we have to carry this message back in the most lucid terms into the governance mechanism, and really make the policymakers tell them, hey guys, this is a real thing there. I mean, your kid is on an autonomous car and it simply just flashes at the middle of the road at 120 kilometers per hour, no controls work. It says, please pay ransom so and so, we'll release these controls. What do? You have nothing to do but to pay. So are we really prepared for this? In fact, when I really think about all that, you know, just as a side note, you know, the new refrigerators which have automated reorder sensors, and you know, it can directly order, place orders with your market exchanges, and it automatically pays with your predestined card, right? Imagine, I was just imagining, let us say there is a small manufacturer or a hack, and you know, this container of yours which is sitting in the refrigerator, which has a milk, and it reaches the reorder level, and it does something, and there is somebody knocking at the door, there is a tanker of milk there that you ordered for. Where do you want me to drop it? So it's a hack. But what do you do with that? A drone over your head saying there's a bomb in this, we're just going to drop it on your head, that's a mobile message. So this is pretty serious, and this is now life-threatening, not just information-threatening. And believe me, when I start thinking about it from the futuristic perspective, from my own personal perspective, I believe in Buddha's statement. The future doesn't exist, the past doesn't exist, the present is true.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I think excellent. Thank you very much. So we'll break for. I thought the tea is coming in. So then he should have brought. We'll continue. Just let him come in. We'll continue. One more last round. So I can't resist asking this question. You know, Ashish, are you? I mean, Vittal mentioned. You know, do you really see it? Do you see it, sir? As you sit in the board. The change?
I think the change is really happening. But as Ashish was concerned about some consultancy jobs and some more work to be done, no? I think there is a plenty of work to be done. And I think the way things are going haywire in the market, no? I think when Tesla's car meets with an accident, there is a news which gets on. We are all talking about driverless cars and these kind of things. I think insurance, we are also looking at things, how things are happening, because we are also talking in terms of Internet of Things, where the washing machine, whenever it has some kind of a problem, it will trigger a message to our service provider to directly go and attend to that problem, or to do, or if there are some problems in the electrical installations. I think we are all talking about Internet of Things. We are all talking about BYOD, our employees are coming with their own laptops and all those things. How do we control the kind of data security or the IT security in terms of this very volatile environment? I think I think this basic information security policy or having some basic controls in place, I think those will still have to be there. And what I would also like to share here is that although cyber insurance is a kind of a new concept as far as India is concerned, but I think in the Allianz world, where Allianz has been already operating globally, they're already selling a lot of cyber insurance policies. And when I looked at in terms of what kind of security issues or frauds or the problems